Breaking news tonight. President Trump asked FBI Director Comey to drop the investigation into Michael Flynn, according to a memo written by the FBI director himself. Is it obstruction of justice? A stunning development as we come on the air. Also, secret intelligence shockwaves. NBC News has learned Israel was the source of the information that President Trump gave the Russians. The fallout far-reaching from Capitol Hill to allies around the world. A better night's sleep. New help for millions unable to rest easy. A revolutionary device patients say it's life-changing. And inspiring America, triumphing over a tragic accident. An acrobat soaring to new heights. Nightly News begins right now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. There's breaking news on multiple fronts tonight involving President Trump. New details about the sensitive intelligence the president apparently shared with Russian diplomats in a meeting last week. More on that in a moment. But first to the new bombshell that landed on the White House just a short time ago. Possible evidence that the president asked FBI Director James Comey to drop his investigation into the president's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. Flynn's contacts with Russia are the subject of an ongoing FBI probe that Comey was leading up until he was fired by the president a week ago. But tonight, multiple sources confirmed to NBC News the existence of a Comey memo detailing the president's requests. Let's get details now from our justice correspondent, Pete Williams.
According to a memo Comey wrote to his own files in February, President Trump suggested that Comey should end any FBI investigation of whether Michael Flynn lied to the FBI when he denied meeting with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. According to the memo, the president made his comment the day after Flynn stepped down as national security advisor. "I hope you can let this go," the president said, according to the memo. "He is a good guy." The president told Lester Holt last week that he had high regard for Flynn.
This man has served for many years. He's a general. He's, in my opinion, a very good person.
The White House says this account, first reported by the New York Times and confirmed by former associates of Comey's, is incorrect. Quote, "The president has never asked Mr. Comey or anyone else to end any investigation," a White House official said in his statement. The White House points to a comment made at a Senate hearing last week by the acting FBI director, asked if Mr. Comey's firing as FBI director had interfered with its investigations.
The work of the men and women of the FBI continues despite any changes in circumstance, any decisions. So there has been no effort to impede our investigation to date.
From all indications, the investigation of Flynn has never stopped into his contacts with the Russians. Officials say a federal grand jury has issued subpoenas in the case. None of this comes from Mr. Comey directly. He has yet to say anything publicly since he was fired a week ago tonight. But he did tell friends and a few people at the FBI about what he wrote in that memo at the time, and they're the ones describing it now. And people at the FBI strongly believe that Comey was fired because he wouldn't shut down the entire Russia investigation, Lester.
Pete, I know you've been talking to legal experts and sources. What are they saying about possible criminal action here?
Well, not surprisingly, they say it all depends. First is to try to get the actual Comey memo and not rely just on people who can tell us what it said. To see what it said, then perhaps talk to Mr. Comey. It all comes down to the person's intent. What did the president have in mind? Did he actually intend to try to shut down the investigation, or was he just saying he hoped it would end, Lester?
All right, Pete Williams tonight starting us off. Thanks. We want to bring in now our political director, the moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd. Chuck, what do you make of all this?
Well, look, this is a gut check moment now for congressional Republicans. They've already been taking on a lot of water politically, either having to defend or deflect actions by President Trump. You know, just today, many Republicans were not wanting to see any cameras running around Capitol Hill, not wanting to comment on the story you're about to report on next, which is this issue of the president sharing classified information for the Russians. This raises the stakes, though, to a whole new level. This introduces the idea of obstruction of justice. If there's a memo, now congressional Republicans, even though it's their own party's president, they're going to have no choice but to start issuing subpoenas. And by the way, the president himself made that veiled threat to Director Comey, then former Director Comey, saying, He better hope there aren't tapes. Well, if the White House's version of events is to be believed, then the president better hope his tapes are able to do that, because this now becomes Comey versus the president. And I can tell you this right now, Comey probably has more credibility in Capitol Hill than the president.
All right, Chuck Todd, appreciate the analysis. Now to that other major story you referred to swirling around the White House, concern over the extent of the intelligence secrets President Trump shared with Russian diplomats. Was the information classified? The White House won't say. Had it been shared with our allies before it was given to the Russians? Again, the White House won't say. What country gave the U.S. the intel, and was the U.S. authorized to share it? Same answer, though multiple sources are telling NBC News it came from Israel. Our chief White House correspondent Hallie Jackson has details.
Tonight, the White House dodging, deflecting, but not denying the president shared classified information with Russia, and neither is he.
We had actually a great meeting with the foreign minister, so we're going to have a lot of great success over the next coming years.
Now, NBC News has learned the intelligence he talked about came from Israel, according to 3 government officials familiar with the matter, naming that country as the key partner which provided the ISIS-related information. Diplomatic dynamite just 6 days before the president's set to visit Jerusalem. The Israeli ambassador says his country has full confidence in our intelligence sharing relationship with the United States.
I'm obviously pleased to see Ambassador Dermer's comment. We appreciate the relationship that we have with Israel and appreciate the exchange of information that we have with them.
President Trump acknowledges he did discuss with the Russians facts pertaining to terrorism and airline flight safety. But the Washington Post says it went further, with the president describing elements of a specific plot by ISIS, naming the city in the Islamic State's territory where the U.S. intelligence partner detected the threat. Officials warning the paper, revealing that would jeopardize important intelligence capabilities. The National Security Advisor wouldn't confirm specifics today, but argues the president did nothing illegal, which is true, and he says nothing improper either.
What the president discussed with the foreign minister was wholly appropriate. That conversation was wholly appropriate, wholly appropriate.
But 2 U.S. intelligence sources tell NBC News they're not buying that, worried the president's conversation compromised a key source. H.R. McMaster says the leaks are the real danger, pointing out the president could not have put sources at risk because he hadn't been told about them.
He wasn't briefed on the source and method of the information either.
It's not unusual for a president to convey classified information to another head of state, but that's usually done in a scripted way. In this case, it appears that the president simply did it on his own and without a strategy or a script in hand.
The new questions over classified material, striking, given the president's criticisms as a candidate.
I don't think it's safe to have Hillary Clinton be briefed on national security because the word will get out. We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified.
Now, already in near perpetual crisis management mode, his embattled teams scrambling to respond, rattled by rumors of a staff shakeup, led by a frustrated president learning on the job.
He'd been a leader by fiat, basically. So now he has to lead by governing, and that means inviting people to be part of the solution, including those in the executive branch of government who work for him.
So where does this story go next? A U.S. counterterrorism official expects there will be a damage assessment now to figure out any fallout for the intelligence community. Lester?
Hallie Jackson, thank you. The fallout from this news has been swift on Capitol Hill, where some top Republicans appear to be losing patience with the president. We get details on that end of the story from NBC's Kristen Welker.
Alarm bells on Capitol Hill tonight as members of the president's own party become increasingly critical of him. The Senate's highest-ranking Republican unleashing this sharp rebuke.
I think it would be helpful to have less drama emanating from the White House.
Privately, Republican aides on Capitol Hill tell NBC News the president's latest controversy is raising serious questions about his ability to govern. But publicly, they're not yet breaking ranks.
Are you starting to lose confidence in President Trump?
No.
Republican Senator Bob Corker, who campaigned with candidate Donald Trump, calling it a downward spiral.
Can you tell me what you meant by that?
Well, I think I was, I mean, they have some organizational issues that they need to work through.
And tonight, leaders of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees are demanding more information, some saying their faith in the White House depends on it.
Once Mark and I have an opportunity to talk to individuals that were in the meeting, that will either confirm our confidence or possibly shake the confidence.
But is your confidence shaken at all?
We want to know from people in the room, but we also want to see if there are, again, these supposed transcripts.
The White House phoning lawmakers and dispatching CIA Director Mike Pompeo to brief some members of Congress tonight, but many expressing concerns the damage is already done.
What are your concerns? Well, I think they're obvious, right? I mean, the handling of classified information is a critical thing.
If it's accurate, it's very concerning.
Only few Republicans coming to the president's defense.
So I think it's something that's way blown out of proportion.
So what could cause Republicans to break with Mr. Trump?
The White House is undoubtedly on an unsustainable path of sort of dipping and dodging and weaving crises after crises that they create.
All of it giving Democrats a political opening.
Given the gravity of the matter, we need to be able to quickly assess whether or not this report is true.
And tonight, reaction is pouring in to our lead story about the Comey memo. The top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, calling that report disturbing if true. Nancy Pelosi calling it brazen if true. All of it adding to the consternation here on Capitol Hill. Lester.
A lot of moving pieces tonight, Kristen. Thank you. There's concern over how President Trump's reported disclosure of that intel to the Russians may impact relationships with America's allies. Will they now be more reluctant to share the kind of crucial intelligence the U.S. has used in the past to thwart terrorist activity? NBC's Andrea Mitchell has more on that.
October 2010. Authorities find a printer cartridge loaded with explosives on a UPS plane, thanks to a tip from the Saudis about an al-Qaeda bomb maker. June 2009. Iran's critical nuclear equipment starts misfiring, the result of a computer virus created by Israel in partnership with the CIA. April 2012, a Saudi and British spy gives the CIA plans for an al-Qaeda bomb designed to bring down a passenger plane. The fear now, foreign intelligence services will not share top-secret plots like those with the U.S. because they do not trust the President of the United States to keep a secret.
This reinforces a concern that they've had for a long time, but it takes it to another level, I think.
Today, Britain's Prime Minister deflecting questions, but officials say they are worried.
It's not up to me what President Trump says to anybody that he's meeting and talking to.
The Germans not happy about the way the president treated their leader, Angela Merkel. Now angry he is sharing intelligence with Russia.
It sends a very bad signal that President Trump values our relationship with Russia more than he values our relationship with our traditional allies.
And when it comes to fighting ISIS and al-Qaeda, the CIA depends on Middle East allies.
Someone who looks like me is not going to blend in. We need them on this issue in particular, perhaps more than they need us.
All this casting a big shadow over the president's first foreign trip. A complex itinerary starting with Saudi Arabia, then Israel, Rome, NATO in Brussels, and a G7 summit in Italy. Already, diplomatic sources say NATO leaders are being told, keep your speeches brief, tailored to what they call Mr. Trump's short attention span. President Trump, with his off-the-cuff remarks and his tweeting, brings a whole new level of uncertainty to a foreign trip that could prove daunting even for an experienced commander-in-chief. Lester?
Andrea Mitchell in Washington. Andrea, thank you. There is a lot more to talk about tonight still ahead. Get a better night's sleep. New hope for millions of Americans who suffer from something that keeps them tossing and turning and increases their risk of heart attack or stroke.
More doing chores for mom per roll? More doing chores for dad per roll? More earning something you love per roll? Bounty is more absorbent, so the roll can last 50% longer than the leading Ordinary brand. So you get more life per roll. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. And now try Bounty with new Despicable Me 3 prints in theaters June 30th.
Umbrellas! You need one of these.
You wouldn't put up with an umbrella that covers you part way. So when it comes to pain relievers, why put up with just part of a day? Aleve, live whole, not part.
I'm gonna give it to you for half off.
Looking for a home service pro you know you can trust? For over 15 years, homeowners have trusted HomeAdvisor to find only the best home pros and do a thorough background check. So start every job at HomeAdvisor.
I accept I take easier trails than I used to. I even accept I have a higher risk of stroke due to AFib.